If a book is written and no one is around to read it, does it have any meaning? According to Wolfgang Iser's ideas on reader response theory, no, it does not. Text by itself has no meaning. It is made up of dark symbols on a light background, a splattering of ink. A reader breathes life into a novel. A reader takes in the symbols and creates meaning out of them. The reader interacts with the text, and the result is a story that is unique to that particular reader. Let's start with the most basic component of a novel, its sentences. Each sentence affects the sentence that precedes it and follows it. The reading process is as follows. The reader reads the first sentence, they make a prediction about what will follow it, they read the next sentence, they reflect on its effect on the previous sentence, they predict what will follow, they read the next sentence, and so on. In this process, a world is created. The reader always has expectations, but if these expectations are met, they are disappointed, because that means that the story is too predictable. Instead of being fulfilled, these expectations are constantly modified after reflection takes place and drive the story. In this interaction between expectations and reflections, active interest is fostered inside the reader. In the text, there is an unwritten text that is composed of the gaps between events in which the reader creates connections. The author leaves enough room for the reader to use their own imagination. If the author were to spell out every single aspect of the novel, there would be no intrigue, because there would be no room for the reader to participate in the novel. There are infinite possibilities for how the reader can fill gaps, but the reader decides how to do so. That decision is based on the reader and their schema. Because of this, each interpretation of the text is different. The subject-based nature of reading in this theory is part of what makes it postmodern. If we put this argument in terms of subject and object, we would see the text as the object and the reader as the subject. Because the former is static and unaffected, whereas the latter is based on the self and its internal schema. In reader response, the meaning of the text comes because of the reader. The book itself has no inherent meaning. As commonly seen in the postmodern paradigm, the objective is foreign and the subjective is where thought is centered. The reader is the one making connections, using their own schema, creating meaning. The objective is the marble that's being sculpted, difficult to work with, but bound to create something beautiful. And this interaction does lead to something beautiful, a meaning to a story. In order to make connections, the reader uses their schema. To give life to a text, the reader must give part of himself. In this way, the text acts as a mirror. The meaning extracted from literature reflects the connections made from the reader, which reflects on who the reader is. This creates an incredibly unique subject-centered experience that can never be repeated because the same circumstances can never be repeated. Even upon rereading a text, the reader does not have the same experience because they have changed since the last interaction. Before, they knew nothing. Now, they have an understanding of the text. Their schema is permanently altered. Allow us to take a look at this theory applied to our current culture. Reader response theory can be applied to consumer culture, more specifically to advertising. We've established that the text does not carry its own meaning. Rather, the interaction between the reader and the text creates meaning. Meaning is derived from the connections the reader makes between the text and their past experiences.
Are you back?
Now let's watch this
my car?
commercial.
State Farm knows that for every one of those moments,
This is ridiculous!
there's one of these.
Is this my car? What? This is ridiculous.
This can't be happening!
This can't be happening.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Shut up.
Shut up!
That's why State Farm is there.
What a day.
With car insurance for when things go wrong,
What a day!
but also here with car loans to help life go right. State Farm.
In this commercial, we see that the text between the two people is the exact same and has no meaning by itself. However, when the reader actively participates by creating a connection between the words and the body language or the tone of the speakers, the meaning is created. That connection is what allows the reader to understand the story. In advertising, we know that we are being sold something and we interpret it in a different way than we interpret regular text. We are more guarded. Because of this, advertisers try to catch our attention by giving us the same information in a new way. This is never truly original because originality is impossible in postmodernism. But repackaging old ideas is enough to catch the interest of the modern consumer who only wants to be entertained so they do not have to think about life's absurdity. In a paradigm where passivity is preferable, reading seems like something that would be rejected. What really takes place is a change in our perspective on reading. We go from the idea that reading depends on the text entirely to the idea that meaning is derived from the interaction of the reader with the text. Reading becomes more of a subject-based experience. There's no one true reading of a book, just like there's no one truth in philosophy. Although reading has not turned into a passive activity, it still depends entirely on the reader actively creating these connections. It has turned into an activity that is based wholly on subjective experience and has alienated the objective text. So, if a book is written and no one is around to read it, does it have any meaning?